Man, I am kind of blown away.
Place it, place it, place it, place it, place it, place it.
Welcome, my fellow wannabes, to my channel. I am Gabriel Fast. I am the wannabe critic. If this is your first time here, I would kindly implore you to consider subscribing to my channel. Talk about a lot of music, video games, comics, movies, the whole thing. We're just giving hot takes left and right. We're selling like they're hotcakes all the time. Today, I'm coming at you with an album review. It's Anamanaguhci, or is it Anamanaguchi? I don't know. There's that dude off of their album Endless Fantasy that says Anamanaguchi. That's how he pronounces it, so that's how I pronounce it. I don't know if that's right. So we're gonna go with Anamanaguchi. If it's Anamanaguchi, I apologize. It's been like 6 years since the last time Anamanaguchi has put out a album, like a legit album. They put out a like soundtrack to their video game that they had come out a couple years ago. I don't know a ton about that. I did listen to the music, wasn't incredibly blown away by it or anything. I did enjoy it, but I mean, it was just, there was something missing. It was kind of lost in translation for me personally. So this is their newest like album. And I gotta say, I really liked this album. Their first one was, or the first one that I listened to all the way through was Endless Fantasy, which came out in 2013, which is the year I graduated high school. And I played that record all the time. My boss at the time, he's actually a friend of the show, turned me on to them, and he was like, they took the guts out of a Super Nintendo and they play their real instruments through it. And I'm like, well, that sounds freaking awesome. And it turns out it is. I will preface this review by saying this is incredibly geeky and nerdy, and it has all the nerdiness in it. So if you're not into that kind of thing, if you don't like 8-bit 16-bit style music, whatever, but it's worth sticking around if you're interested in kind of why I'm into it. So Anamanaguchi has always been really good about conveying emotion without a whole lot of lyrical input. And I mean, they're able to get me to reflect on my life and get me to kind of ponder my choices in life, and I like meander over my thoughts whenever I listen to their music. They do a really good job of evoking emotion without any lyrics. It's literally all about the music. And something super nostalgic to me is just that sound of the 8-bit chiptune style music. I mean, there's just, it's timeless in my opinion. I mean, you can create some really beautiful melodies. Some of it is gimmicky and kind of tropey at times. Of course, I agree with that. But these guys have really like outdone themselves in taking it to the next level, and really, this is an album to be taken seriously in my opinion, just because it is so beautiful. It's great. I mean, its ambience is like at level 1000, and their last album was like super duper crazy, drum heavy, like in your face, like really crazy style, and that is on this record in a little bit, but they're really playing up the more electronic sounding aspect on this album and really making it sound more meaningful and kind of dramatic. I mean, it's not they're making it sound like not all fun and games anymore. Like it's thought provoking in a really weird way. It really reminds me of like something like Explosions in the Sky. I mean, that sort of vibe that those albums give off, which I think are awesome. They have their place for sure. It's not something I want to listen to all the freaking time, but they have their place, and whenever you want just some solid instrumental music, I mean, that's a really good place to go to. Really big sounding hooks and choruses, and really just deep cutting tones and things like that. I mean, there's a darkness to this album I can't really put my finger on. Maybe it's just the thought of, hey, look where we were in the past and look how far we've come and what we've had to do to get there. And maybe there's like an emptiness kind of still left on the inside, even though we've tried to achieve all of this stuff. We're still kind of just that same band, doing that same thing. That's just kind of what I feel, and what kind of it speaks to me. I could be completely off base, but that's how I interpret it. It's kind of beautiful that you can interpret music in certain ways with instrumental music, because you want to essentially have the same feeling that they had when they were writing this album. There's a depressive feeling to this music, and it's really beautiful, but it's really sad at the same time, and it's vaguely familiar. It's very true to form for Anamanaguchi, even though the style of music has somewhat changed a little bit. It's not so like animated and like theatrical, it's more deep and dramatic. I still think that this is a true to form attitude that Anamanaguchi has brought to the table with USA. So key tracks for me, I've listened to this like 3 times, and as usual, I never freaking know what they're called. The whole thing is really, really good, and it's really hard to pick just a few, but if I had to pick just like 2 or 3, I would say Sunset by Plane, Air Online, and it's either Tear or Tear. I'm not really sure how they're supposed to pronounce it. It's kind of the trouble with having only instrumental style music. It's a really, really solid album. I really, really enjoyed it. I think those are probably the best tracks off the album. And I'm going to say that, you know, while even though it is kind of a departure from the more faster paced stuff that I'm used to, even though that was, you know, really good, it's not something that I want to listen to all the time. That kind of follows suit with this album. I think I'd be more apt to kind of play these albums back to back, like on a road trip or something like that. They don't really fit into the same genre anymore. They're just different. But I think it's a really, really solid album. I think I might even like it more than Endless Fantasy, which had like 20 songs on it or something like that. So I think, while this is a super solid album, I really, really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. I really like it. It's kind of everything you could want from a follow-up to a really super solid album. And I can't wait to see what they do after this, because now that we kind of have both ends of the spectrum with this style of music, I can't wait. I'm an even bigger fan than I was before. And even though it is different, I like it just as much, if not more. And it's really just like, it depends on what mood I'm in. If I want something like super fast and happy-go-lucky, let's go with Endless Fantasy. If I'm feeling like reflective or just want some like good instrumental, like deep music, I think I'll go with this new album. So in the end, did you guys like it? What did you think of it? Did you listen to it? Are you interested in it? I haven't seen very many reviews of this album, which I'm kind of surprised. I was really thinking that there would be a ton, which this is October 28th that I'm recording this right now, so there might be more out in the future, but I mean, still, it's a kind of a big deal. There's a lot of, this kind of has a big cult following, this band does, and I'm surprised no one's put out a review yet. Suck it, Anthony Fantano. All right, as usual, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, again, consider subscribing. This is the kind of stuff we do here. I always appreciate you preparing yourself for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I am Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.